So let's begin by talking about what PowerPoint actually is. PowerPoint is a Microsoft Office application. It's a very visual program where we present all types of information in individual panes known as slides. So these slides can contain different types of content such as text or images. So PowerPoint is typically used in conjunction with a speaker. It's a good visual aid to have while you're giving some sort of presentation. It allows you to highlight key information. It can help you stay on track with key bullet points. And it also provides a good visual element. It's very visually engaging, and we can also present other types of visual information such as charts or tables or other types of media like videos even. There are other common uses for PowerPoint as well. You can use PowerPoint to create deliverables, things like handouts, or you could use PowerPoint to make certificates to hand out to other people as well. And sometimes we see PowerPoint presentations in kiosks in different offices or company buildings where you might have a looping PowerPoint presentation giving general information about the company or maybe safety information. So let's get into the program. So in order to work with the PowerPoint application, we're going to need to open it first. And there are a couple different ways we can do this. In the bottom left-hand corner of your computer, you can find your Start menu. And clicking on this will bring up all of your different applications within your computer. And you can simply scroll down to the letter P to find PowerPoint. Click on it and it will actually launch that application. Also, down below in the bottom left-hand corner, we do have a search bar. So you can always type in PowerPoint in the search bar, and it should pop up right at the very top. Now, not only can you find the PowerPoint application when you type it in the search bar, you can also find some recent PowerPoint files that you have been working with. So it might make it easier to find those. Now, if you don't feel like searching for that PowerPoint app every time or typing it in, looking through your list of apps, we can actually put this in a more easily accessible location. We can actually pin this PowerPoint app to either our Start menu or our taskbar. So the Start menu. In a Windows 10 computer, you will sometimes see additional apps over on the right-hand side in larger squares or boxes. And this is where you can place apps that you use the most often. Now, in order to put PowerPoint into the Start menu, you can right-click on PowerPoint in this app list. And at the very top of the menu that appears is going to be the Pin to Start option. When you click on Pin to Start, you will see that PowerPoint icon appear over on the right-hand side. And you can actually move this tile anywhere you would like simply by clicking and dragging on it. And you'll see I can rearrange those tiles however I want. Also, if you right-click on that PowerPoint tile, you can resize it. So if you want that to be smaller or a bit bigger, you can change that right here, or unpin the tile from your Start menu if you no longer want PowerPoint to show up here. We can also have PowerPoint show up on our taskbar, which is at the very bottom of our computer screen. So if I go to all of my apps, scroll down to PowerPoint, once again I will right-click on that PowerPoint app, and underneath the Unpin from Start option, we can find More options. And when you hover your cursor over More, that will bring up the option to Pin to Taskbar. Once you click on Pin to Taskbar, well, that's now going to appear on your taskbar at the very bottom of your desktop. Simply click on that PowerPoint icon to, well, launch it up. So whenever you launch the PowerPoint application, this is going to take us to what is officially known as the Start page. And this is where we could choose to create a new blank presentation if we would like, or maybe choose from a variety of different themes or templates, just to give us a design or some formatting to start off with, just so we're not starting off with a blank white presentation. Now also, over on the left-hand side of our Start page, you can find a list of recent files that you have been working with. Now, as you work with more and more PowerPoint files, these older files will start to disappear from the list. So if there's any particular file that you always want to keep track of, that you just never want to lose, Well, for any file that I hover my cursor over on the right-hand side of the file name, I can find a pushpin icon. And if we click on that pushpin icon, it will pin the file to the very top of this list, where it will stay forever. So no matter how many other files you've opened up, or no matter how long it's been since you've worked with this file, it will always be pinned to the top, easy to find, at least until you click on that pushpin icon one more time to unpin the file from this list. Also, in the bottom left-hand corner of our start page, you can find the option to open other presentations. And once you click on Open Other Presentations, yes, you can see this does bring up a list of those recent presentations. And just like that start page, for any file that I hover my cursor over, that pushpin icon will be on the right-hand side. So this is another location to pin files to the top of this list. Now, if you're not finding the file you're looking for in this list, there are going to be additional locations we can open up files from over on the left-hand side. So if you actually have an Office 365 account, you could find your OneDrive account over on the left-hand side and open up any files that you have stored on OneDrive. You might have a SharePoint site for your company as well with Office 365. Or, of course, you can always look for other locations on this PC or click on Browse to open up that File Explorer, where you can simply select the folder of your choosing, find a PowerPoint file, and either double-click on the file name or, with the file selected, click on Open in the bottom right-hand corner. And that will give us our presentation, so we can see this very easily. Now, if you're actually already in a PowerPoint presentation and you want to open up another one, we can do this by clicking on this File tab in the top left-hand corner of PowerPoint. Now, clicking on this File tab will actually take us to what is officially known as the Backstage view of PowerPoint, which will have additional tabs over on the left-hand side. And you can find an Open tab on the left-hand side. Click on it to, again, bring up all those different locations, as well as your recent files list. Now that we've talked about the different ways we can open up PowerPoint, let's take a tour of the user interface. So in our last video, I ended up in our Backstage view. And if you want to leave the Backstage view and go back to your presentation, well, you will find an arrow in the top left-hand corner of the Backstage view. Simply click on that, and you are back in your presentation. Don't worry, we will take a closer look in that Backstage view in just a moment. But let's take a look at what's right in front of us now. So in PowerPoint, at the very top, you can actually find your file name, as well as the last time you saved your file. And you'll find that there's a drop-down arrow next to your file name and when you saved it. And if you click on that, this is where you can actually change the file name, if you so choose, or maybe change the location of that file as well. Okay, just click away to get rid of those options. Now, over in the top left-hand corner of Microsoft PowerPoint, we can find what's called the Quick Access toolbar, which allows us to quickly access some of the most commonly used features in the PowerPoint program, such as save or maybe undo, very useful feature. Or in PowerPoint, you can also find the command to start a slideshow from the beginning when we're ready to present our slides one at a time to an audience. Now, this Quick Access toolbar is actually customizable. Over on the right-hand side of the toolbar, you will find a drop-down arrow, and clicking on the drop-down arrow will bring up a list of common commands you might want to add to the toolbar. So if I want to add the print preview and print command to the toolbar, I'll simply click on that in this list. You will see that appears in our Quick Access toolbar. If you want to get rid of it, we'll just click on that drop-down arrow again on the right-hand side of the toolbar. See that there is a check mark next to print, preview, and print, and just click on it one more time to get rid of it. Now, one newer feature in that Quick Access toolbar that we can put into our Quick Access toolbar is going to be touchscreen or tablet mode. So you might not be using a mouse, you might not be using anything of that nature. You might actually have a touchpad that, or a tablet PC where you just select different things within the PowerPoint program. Well, there's actually a mode for this that makes all of our options a little bit bigger and easier to select with your finger. So once again, I'm going to click on that drop-down arrow on the right-hand side, look through those common commands, and at the very bottom, you can find touch/mouse mode. I'll click on that, touch/mouse mode, to add it to my quick access toolbar. The icon is of a hand or pushing a button with that index finger. And when you click on this, this will allow you to quickly switch between mouse mode and touch mode. So mouse mode, that is the standard mode, what we are looking at right now. But when I switch to touch mode, you'll notice that things get a little bit bigger. Those commands up at the top of PowerPoint, a little bit bigger, easier to select with your finger. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to mouse mode. So I'll click on that option again in our toolbar, go back to mouse. And again, if you'd like to get rid of that touch/mouse mode icon, simply click on the drop-down arrow to the right of your toolbar, click on touch/mouse mode down below, and it is gone. Okay, so feel free to customize that in any way that you would like to make sure that you have the commands that you use the most directly in front of you. And whenever you customize the quick access toolbar, it will remain that way for any PowerPoint file that you open. Okay. So going across the very top of our PowerPoint interface, where we can find all the different commands and features for this program, this is officially known as the ribbon. And we will go more in depth into the ribbon in our next video. But above the ribbon, you will find different tabs that you can left click on to actually change the commands in the ribbon itself. But over on the right-hand side of all of these different ribbon tabs, we've got this newer Tell Me feature. And this has a couple different purposes. The Tell Me feature can actually help us find commands we are having trouble locating in our ribbon. It can also double up as our help feature. So if you ever need any help in the PowerPoint program, this is where you go, to that Tell Me bar. So for instance, let's say that I need some help with formatting my PowerPoint presentation. I will click in that Tell Me field and type in the word formatting. Okay. So first, towards the top of this menu that appears, you can find some different commands in your ribbon related to formatting. Yep, that Tell Me feature just helps you find them. But down beneath all these different formatting options, there's a help option where it says Get Help on Formatting. And if you hover your cursor over where it says Get Help on Formatting, you will see the start of a few different articles related to, well, formatting or whatever you typed in. So you can click on one of these articles to bring it up, or if you're not seeing exactly what you want right here, below these three options, we can click on More Results for Formatting. When you click on More Results, that will bring up a help pane over on the right-hand side, where yes, you can find even more articles related to formatting. And there is that search bar at the very top if you want to refine your search. When you are done with this help feature and you want to close out of this help pane, you will find an X in the top right-hand corner of the help pane. Just click on that and it will disappear. Okay. of PowerPoint, taking a look at our slides. So over on the left-hand side of PowerPoint, you can find what's called the slide pane, which will give you thumbnails of all of the different slides within your PowerPoint presentation. There will be a scroll bar for the slide pane, so you can scroll up and down. And with any slide that you left-click on, you will see that slide appear in what's known as the slide area. So this is where we actually edit our slides or add in text or different types of content. You must select a slide in your slide pane over on the left-hand side before you can edit that slide in your slide area. So let's go ahead and take another look at that backstage view real quick. Remember, to get to the backstage view, we need to click on the File tab in the top left-hand corner of PowerPoint. Click on that File tab, your view will change, and the backstage view does have all those different tabs over on the left-hand side. So we start off in this Info tab generally, where we can find general information about our document. Who created the document? When was it created? When was it last modified? Below that Info tab on the left-hand side, we have a New tab, which is very similar to your Start page, where we can create a blank presentation or choose from a variety of different themes or templates, which we will talk about a bit more. Beneath that New tab is the Open tab. We've seen this already, that list of recent files that we can pin to the top for any that we want to keep. We can also find our different save locations over on the left-hand side. We can choose to save our PowerPoint file. I'll click on that. I'll just skip on down to Print. So this is where you find your print options for PowerPoint. You'll get a print preview on the right-hand side and all of your print settings on the left-hand side. Beneath the print option, we actually have a share option. Now, when I click on share, it takes me out of the backstage view and invites me to share this file with other people. You'll see that share pane on the right-hand side. And so this is typically when we want to share files through something like OneDrive, perhaps, that Office 365 online cloud storage that allows us to store files online and share them with others. But then once we do share files with other people, we can then collaborate on these files and work on them at the same time. I'm going to close out of that share pane. And I'm going to go right back to my backstage view, again clicking on the File tab in the top left-hand corner. Okay. So we just clicked on Share. I'm going to go down to Export now, where we can create a read-only PDF version of our PowerPoint presentation if we would like. There are options to package presentations for CDs or create videos if you have any recordings, but we're not going to get into that in this course. Now, over on the left-hand side in the backstage view, at the very bottom of all those different tabs, you'll actually find your options. And when you click on options, this will bring up a separate options window, which has its own set of tabs over on the left-hand side. So you can find proofing options, save options, general and advanced options. I'm not going to go too in-depth into these, but I do recommend you check these out and see if you do like any of these options. I'm just going to go ahead and close out of our options window. There you go. Okay. So over in the bottom right-hand corner of PowerPoint, we can find our zoom bar, a horizontal bar with a plus or minus sign on either side, and you can click on the plus or minus sign to zoom in or out of the slide that you are currently editing, whatever slide you had selected from your slide pane over on the left-hand side. Now, just to the left of the zoom bar, we can find a few additional view options. The one that is going to be highlighted in gray should be our normal view, what we are currently looking at, again with our slide area and slide pane on the left-hand side. But you will find additional views such as the slide sorter. If I click on the slide sorter view, it gives us a different view where we can quickly rearrange slides by clicking and dragging on them. There's a reading view, the one that looks like a book, that allows us to go through our slide page by page. And you will find options down below to go to the previous page or next page. And then the other view option is going to be to start a slideshow. Now, whenever you start a slideshow, this is when you present your slides one at a time to an audience. Yep, that will bring up the slideshow. We'll get into actually working in slideshows later in this course. For right now, if you're in a slideshow and you want to get out of it, you can just hit the escape key on your keyboard. Looks like I got taken back to the slide sorter view, but that's okay. We can just go to the bottom right-hand corner to find the normal view. Now, one thing I want to point out about all these different options that you see in PowerPoint, if we're not entirely sure what it is, we can simply hover our cursor over these different icons and a screen tip or text box will appear and tell us what this is. So I'll hover my cursor over that normal view, see that the word normal pops up. I know I've got the right thing and I will click on it. Yep, just go right back to that normal view. Okay. At the very bottom of PowerPoint is where you can find the status bar, which might show us different pieces of information that we might want to see. Typically in PowerPoint, in the bottom left-hand corner, it will tell you what slide you're on and your total number of slides. But you can show additional information simply by right-clicking on this status bar. Yep, right-click on the status bar. And if you'd like to know the current theme that you have for your PowerPoint presentation, you'll see an option for theme. I'll click on that, and it does appear in the status bar. We can also make sure that we've got our spell check on, so if there are any spelling errors, an icon will appear in the bottom left-hand corner to let us know. So yes, you can just check or uncheck all these different options to pick and choose what you'd like to see on the status bar. And that might change depending on what slide you actually have selected. All right, now for all of the slides within our PowerPoint presentation, we actually have the ability to take notes. Sometimes you might want to take notes to prepare yourself for your presentation. You might take down different talking points or definitions, things you don't want to forget. So we can find the notes section beneath our currently selected slide in the slide area. So I see I have my notes section down below. It says click to add notes. Now, just in case you don't see this notes section, bottom right-hand corner of PowerPoint, you'll find the word notes. And you can click on notes to toggle that notes section on and off. So I can make the notes disappear for a while or click on notes again to bring them back up, entirely up to you. But where it says click to add notes, yep, just simply click and type in your notes. All right. So we might talk about those notes appearing later on at the very end of this course. But just for right now, understand for each individual slide, you can have different notes. And that is going to be our tour of the PowerPoint user interface. So now that we've taken a tour of the PowerPoint user interface, let's focus a bit more on using the ribbon. So in our previous video, I mentioned that at the very top of our PowerPoint interface, we can find the ribbon, where all the commands and features of this program are located. As I've mentioned before, our ribbon is divided into different tabs, which are located directly above the ribbon, and you can left-click on the tabs to change the commands on the ribbon itself. Now, each of these ribbon tabs is further divided up into groups, and these groups will be labeled at the bottom of your ribbon, like so, and they will be divided by these vertical lines. Okay, so we might find different things within our ribbon, some interesting things. For example, galleries. If I go to my Design tab, I can actually find a gallery of different themes. So galleries are where you see a whole bunch of different visual options. And for our themes, actually, you can hover your cursor over these to kind of preview them. But when you see these galleries with different options, typically in the bottom right-hand corner of these galleries is a drop-down arrow you can click on for more options, depending on whatever the gallery was. So if I click on to expand the gallery for my themes, that will, of course, give me more themes. Okay. Now I'm going to go over to my Home tab. And in my Home tab, this is where we can actually find our font options, our paragraph options. Now notice at the moment that all my font and paragraph options are grayed out, and that's simply because I do not have anything selected on my slide that I can format. So if I just click in my slide, maybe click around some of that text, all of a sudden my font options are no longer in gray and I can select some different ones. Now there might be some additional font options you're looking for that are not directly in front of you. Well, at the very bottom right-hand corner of this font group, you can see a square icon with an arrow sticking out of it. And you might find this icon in a few different groups within your ribbon. Well, anytime you click on that icon with the square and the arrow, that will open up an additional dialog box with additional options related to the group you first clicked on that icon from. So again, if I'm looking for more font options, in the bottom right-hand corner of the font group, click on that square icon with the arrow sticking out, and there is our font dialog box. Yeah, some additional options that we might not have seen in our ribbon. One of the big things we need to look out for in PowerPoint, especially in PowerPoint, probably more so than a lot of other Office programs, would be something called contextual tabs. Ribbon tabs that you don't necessarily see all the time unless you have something specific selected. And let me tell you, whenever you have anything selected in PowerPoint, whether it's text or a picture or anything else, you want to be on the lookout for additional tabs that appear above your ribbon. For example, currently my last tab in the ribbon is Help, right before that Tell Me feature. But if I simply click into some text, all of a sudden I get a brand new tab that appears, a Drawing Tools Format tab with additional formatting options. If I go to Slide 2 on my slide pane and I click on this picture in the slide, well, now I see a Picture Tools Contextual Format tab appear. Click on that and you'll find additional picture formatting options. So you are going to see these contextual tabs a lot in PowerPoint, essentially when you have anything selected. So do keep an eye out for those. Now, our ribbon, if you would like, you can actually collapse the ribbon if you don't want to see these commands all the time, and you can do so simply by double-clicking on any ribbon tab. So simply double-click on a tab with that left mouse button, 1, 2. Oops, one more time. I'll do it a little bit quicker, and that ribbon will disappear. So you'll see that gives us a little bit more room to work on our PowerPoint file. If you actually click on any of these ribbon tabs while the ribbon is hidden, the ribbon will appear, but as soon as you click away, the ribbon will disappear again. So if you want to repin the ribbon to your PowerPoint program, you can simply double-click on any ribbon tab once more. Again, 1, 2 with that left mouse button. Okay. Now, I did mention in the previous video about screen tips, text boxes that appear when you hover your cursor over things that will give you, well, additional information about what that is. So again, anytime you are looking in your ribbon and you're not sure what a particular command does, simply hover your cursor over that command, that screen tip or text box will appear and give you some additional information. So that's also extremely useful when you are working with your ribbon in PowerPoint. Now that we have a better understanding of the ribbon, let's talk about navigating through some of our different PowerPoint views. Now, earlier in our tour of the user interface, I did briefly touch upon some additional views in PowerPoint that we can find in the bottom right-hand corner. But there are even more views in our View tab above the ribbon. When you click on that View tab, all the way on the left-hand side of the ribbon is a Presentation Views group. You'll find 5 different options, and we should be on the normal view. Again, the normal view, you've got your slide pane over on the left-hand side, and the slide area where you edit your currently selected slide, front and center. Now, when you actually click on a thumbnail in your slide pane over on the left-hand side, if you don't feel like clicking or scrolling through all these slides, you can also use your arrow keys. You can actually arrow up or down to select different slides within that slide pane. Also, the page up and page down options work. And if you ever want to get to the very last slide in your presentation, that is going to be Control End on your keyboard. That's right, Control End will let you select the last slide, and then to select the first slide in your presentation, that is going to be Control Home. Control Home, we get taken right back to slide number 1. We can also resize this slide pane if we would like to make it bigger or maybe smaller. If you move your cursor just to the right of your scroll bar for that slide pane, you'll see your cursor change to 2 arrows pointing left and right. And once you see your cursor change to that icon, you can actually click and drag to, again, increase or decrease the size of the slide pane. Personal preference, that is entirely up to you. Okay. So now let's go ahead and check out some of these other views. So in the View tab, all the way on the left-hand side of the ribbon again, we've got the Presentation Views group. And let's go ahead and go in order. So right after our normal view, we have what's called the Outline view. Yep, real-time editing is not supported in Outline view. Good to know. That is just fine. I'll just click OK. So Outline view really does only one thing. It changes our slide pane over on the left-hand side. So instead of seeing thumbnails for our PowerPoint slides, we actually just see all of the text in our PowerPoint presentation. Yep, all of the text. And if you would like, you can actually edit the text within the left-hand side of your outline view. So if you do need to change any text, change a W4 to a W2 perhaps, whatever you need to, you'll actually see those changes take place on your slide. So it might be an easier way to edit text within PowerPoint. Okay, going right back to those views, that Presentation Views group. After the Outline view, we do have the Slide Sorter view. And we did briefly see this earlier, but Slide Sorter view only shows us the thumbnails of our PowerPoint presentation. Allows us to get a good overall idea of what's in our presentation. We see more slides in one place. In the bottom right-hand corner of that Slide Sorter view, you do have that zoom bar. So if you'd like, you can zoom in or out. I can click on the general zoom option. You can zoom in or out to make those thumbnails larger or smaller, entirely up to you. And one of the coolest things about Slide Sorter view is that you can rearrange slides simply by clicking and dragging on them. If I click and drag on slides, you'll see I can move this anywhere I'd like within my presentation. So also very useful for rearranging. Although I should mention, you can also click and drag on slides in the normal view to move them. So over on the left-hand side of my normal view, if I click and drag on a slide, I can change the order as well. Not as convenient as the Slide Sorter view though. All right, after the Slide Sorter view, we do have the Notes page. So remember, Yep, that's fine. This is a shared document, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a copy of this so I can work on it on my own. Yep, remember that share option that I showed you earlier? This is an actual shared document. There we go. Okay. You should not run into this issue in your own PowerPoint files, though. Okay. Perfect. All right, so once you get to your notes page within PowerPoint, well, this is where you can see your slide image, one at a time, at the very top of these pages. And remember how I mentioned we can take notes on any pages that we would like, or sorry, any slides. We can take notes on any slide that we want. Well, all of those notes will actually appear beneath that thumbnail. So if you want to print out some pages to review on your own, look at that slide, look at your notes, sure, this is a fantastic way to do it using those notes pages. Okay, and then after that notes page view, we're going to move on to the reading view, which you've seen already. Allows you to view your slideshow just one slide at a time. And this is useful if you are viewing this presentation as an individual and not presenting it to a larger audience. You can give somebody this presentation, put them in reading view and say, okay, go through this presentation on your own time. Again, when you are in that reading view, bottom right-hand corner, you will have different controls to navigate to the next slide or the previous slide, or there's even a menu you can click on, where we find options to go to specific slides, any slide you'd like. We can zoom in, we can print, or you can go to full screen if you'd like. All right. Also, when you click on that menu at the very bottom, we have an option to end show. And when I click on end show, that's going to take me to my last view, whatever that was, which happened to be the notes page. So those are the different presentation views in PowerPoint. But one of the other main ways we view PowerPoint is through a slideshow. Remember, when we're actually ready to present our slides to an audience one at a time, maybe talk about the slides as well. Well, again, in the top left-hand corner, there is an option to start a slideshow from the beginning, and you can click on that. Next to your zoom bar, the bottom right-hand corner, so that was top left, yeah. Top left for the quick access toolbar, start from beginning. Bottom right, you'll find the same thing, start up a slideshow. There is also a slideshow tab above your ribbon that you can select. And in that slideshow tab, over on the left-hand side of your ribbon, you can start a slideshow from the beginning or your currently selected slide. Yep, whatever thumbnail you have selected. There's also a hotkey to start up a slideshow as well, and the hotkey is F5, that function 5 key at the very top of your keyboard. That should start a slideshow, although I should mention on certain laptops or computers, if F5, pressing that, if it does nothing for you, you might need to press function F5. You'll find that function key in the bottom left-hand corner, hold that down, press F5, and now we started our slideshow. Again, that's only for certain computers and laptops, like the one that I'm using, that function key. But once we are in a slideshow, we can go through and present our slides one by one. If you want to go to your next slide, you can simply click, just left click, go through your presentation. Or you can use your arrow keys. The down arrow or the right arrow will take you to your next slide, whereas the up arrow or the left arrow will take you to your previous slide. And anytime you want to get out of that slideshow, simply hit the escape key on your keyboard. All right, and we will get more in-depth into slideshows and some of the different options we have in slideshows towards the end of this course. But for now, those are a lot of different views that we can navigate through in PowerPoint. Now that we've finished getting started with PowerPoint, let's continue on and create a brand new PowerPoint presentation of our own. So I closed out of my file from our last video, and all I did is I reopened PowerPoint. So I launched PowerPoint, and I'm at that PowerPoint start page, where, as I've mentioned previously, we can create a new blank presentation, or maybe choose from a variety of different themes that we'd like to start off with. And themes are just going to be some sort of design that you apply to all of your slides. Typically, they have some sort of color scheme to them, which can be changed, as well as maybe some font options. So if you don't want to start from scratch, you can pick one of these themes. But we can also look for templates in PowerPoint. Now, templates are just pre-formatted, pre-structured documents, either designed to serve a specific purpose, or maybe just give us a good starting point, a variety of different slides that we can just manipulate and work with instead of creating slides from scratch on our own. So we do have a search bar at the very top of our start page where we can search for online templates and themes, and there are thousands of them. So you can click in that search bar, type in whatever you're looking for, and hit enter. If you're not really sure what to search for, well, there are some suggested searches down below, like presentations, education, and business. I'll just go ahead and click on that business option. PowerPoint will search online, again, through thousands of templates, and return some related to business. So we might find things like human resources presentations, bright business presentation, org charts, all different kinds. And yeah, these have some pretty cool designs and will give you a good starting point in your own PowerPoint presentation. Some formatted slides that you can just manipulate and put in your own text. Okay, if you ever search for a template and you just want to go back to that start page, well, in the top left-hand corner is a back arrow. We'll click on that. Okay, so let's actually just go ahead and create a brand new blank presentation. Click on blank presentation, and you will see that gives us, yes, a new presentation with one single blank slide. If you're ever in PowerPoint, though, there's actually a hotkey to very quickly create a new blank presentation, and that will be Control N. Control and the letter N. That will bring up a new presentation. So now, if I click and drag at the top, you can see I have two presentations. I'm going to close out of one of these presentations because we really only need one. And we are going to continue working on this presentation in our next video. Now that we've created a new PowerPoint presentation, the next steps would be to add text and additional slides. So anytime you create a new blank presentation in PowerPoint, you are going to start off with one title slide, where you can actually see there are some text boxes that are prompting you to, well, add in your text. Where it says click to add title, click to add subtitle, sure, just click and type. So I think I'm just going to call my presentation, well, my presentation. Not very creative, but it works. I'll click where it says click to add title and type in the words, my presentation. If I wanted additional lines in this text box, I could simply hit the Enter key and type in additional text, or hit backspace if you want to get rid of those lines or get rid of some of the text you have typed in. So there's our title, my presentation. Now for the subtitle, I'm just going to go ahead and add in my name. So where it says click to add subtitle, I will click, type in my name. Perfect. All right. And you can always click outside of a text box to, well, deselect it. Anytime you want to select text in one of these text boxes, well, of course, you can just click in the text box and then click and drag with your left mouse button to highlight specific text. But you can actually highlight individual words or entire lines or paragraphs all at once. So for example, if I simply wanted to highlight the word presentation, I could double click on the word, 1, 2 with the left mouse button, and you will see it highlights that very quickly, very easily. If I want to select all the text within this placeholder here, I can triple click, 3 clicks of the left mouse button, 1, 2, 3. And you will see that it selects my entire title, my presentation. Fantastic. All right, just some useful tricks using your mouse to select text. Now that we have text in this slide, let's begin to add in another slide. So the way that we do this, the main way that we do this, in the Home tab above our ribbon, all the way on the left-hand side of the ribbon, you will find a Slides group. And in this Slides group, there is a New Slide option. And New Slide actually has a drop-down arrow. So if you click on that New Slide drop-down arrow, what you are going to see is a variety of layouts. Yep, all of these different options that we see in front of us are known as layouts. And the difference between these layouts would be the type or the amount of placeholders that they contain. Now, a placeholder in PowerPoint, it's simply a box where you plan on putting in some content. Could be text, could be a picture, whatever, really. All of those are considered placeholders. Like the text boxes that we see in our title slide for our title and our subtitle, those are both placeholders. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that Slides group in my ribbon, click on that New Slide drop-down arrow. So in addition to creating title slides, we can also put in slides for title and content, section headers. We can have title-only slides, slides that maybe have pictures with captions, or just a blank slide if we would like. I'm going to go ahead and add in a title and content layout. So when I click on this, I can see I have some placeholders within my new slide. It says click to add title up at the very top, so I can title my slide. And it will also prompt me if I want to create a bulleted list to add in some different text. But I don't actually have to add in text into this placeholder. I actually added in a slide that had a content placeholder, or a layout with a content placeholder. And in the center of a content placeholder, you will see different icons for, well, different types of content you can put in this placeholder. Could be something like a table, maybe a chart, a picture, could be a video perhaps. A lot of different options for things we can have in PowerPoint. So these placeholders work kind of like normal text boxes. If you've worked with them in other programs, you can select text boxes, you can click and drag on the edges of them to move them, and you can also resize these text boxes. So if you want to actually select a text box, the whole thing, and not just click inside and add text, you're going to want to click on the edge of that placeholder or text box. And when you hover your cursor over the edge of that placeholder, it should change to a cursor with arrows pointing in all directions, up, down, left, and right. When you see that, you can simply click on that line around the placeholder. And we'll see a few additional things. Well, one, our placeholder, the line itself changes from a dashed line to a solid line, just letting us know the placeholder is selected. So if we want to maybe make some fine movements with this placeholder, just move it a little bit. When that's selected, you can actually use your arrow keys, to make very finite adjustments with where those placeholders are. You could also simply click and drag on the edge of a placeholder to move it anywhere you'd like. And the great thing in PowerPoint is when you move placeholders and other content around, you might see additional dashed lines appear that can actually help you line content up with, well, other content. Make sure it's perfectly centered, make sure it's lined up in the same location. Very useful feature. Now, when you have a placeholder selected at the very, very top center, you'll find a circular arrow. This is the rotate option. You actually click and drag on that, will rotate the placeholder. Okay. So you can have some fun with those angles. Or in the corners of these placeholders, you will find those white circles, and you can click and drag on those white circles to resize the placeholder however you would like. So I inserted a new slide, and I chose that title and content layout. I should also mention right now that the layouts that you see might change. You might see even more of them depending on what theme you apply to your PowerPoint presentation, and we will be talking about themes in a bit. So I added in a title and content slide, but if I decide that I didn't want a title and content slide, maybe I'd like a different layout, well, I can actually change the layout to something else. I don't necessarily have to delete this slide and insert in another one. So with that slide selected, in our Home tab above the ribbon, all the way on the left-hand side, we've got that Slides group. At the very top of the Slides group, it will actually say Layout. When you click on Layout, we can go ahead and change this to something else. Maybe I would actually like to change this to a slide that's going to have a picture with a caption. Click on that, and I can see the placeholders have indeed changed. Okay. I'm getting some design ideas over on the right-hand side, something that you might see pop up every once in a while in PowerPoint 2019. These can be very useful. Yep, cool little designs to add in. Of course, we can always do a lot of custom designs on our own. So you can just close out of that Design Ideas pane in the top right-hand corner, click on that X. Unless you really do like one of these design ideas that you see, in which case you can click on it, and there you will see it actually changes to that specific design idea. Okay, I will close out of there. All right. Okay. Yep, just a little suggestion. Hey, in that Design tab, you might see additional design ideas. You'll see that over on the right-hand side of the ribbon. So good new feature within PowerPoint 2019. Okay. Anytime you want to get rid of a slide, well, you can select the slide over in your slide pane and press the delete key. I'll just get rid of that slide with the design ideas. I don't want to keep that in this presentation. And I'll just go ahead and add in another title and content slide, just a blank one. So we've added in some slides, we've added in some text. Next up, we will be talking about working with bulleted lists in PowerPoint, something that's very common that we see in PowerPoint presentations. So we added in some text into our presentation in our last video. Now, a lot of times text is going to appear in PowerPoint presentations in the form of bulleted lists. Bulleted lists are a great way to keep your ideas organized, to be able to, while you're speaking, just glance over and make sure you're on topic, you know what you're going to be talking about next. Now, typically in PowerPoint, we don't want to overwhelm our audience with a giant wall of text. We want to make sure it's easily readable and understandable. So typically in PowerPoint slides, we limit our bullet points to maybe 3 to 4. That's just a general rule. Of course, there are always exceptions to that. So let's actually work with one of these bulleted lists. Now, I inserted a new slide in our last video, which was a title and content slide. Yep, that title and content layout. So with this slide selected, I can see I can add a title at the very top. And you know what? Why don't we make this second slide our agenda? So I'm going to click on that title slide and call it the agenda. Now, down below in our content placeholder, you can see there's already a bullet point where it says click to add text. So yes, any text we add in here will automatically be considered a bullet point. Of course, you can always get rid of the bullet points, but typically we see a lot of them in PowerPoint. So I'll start with my first bullet point. I'll click right next to it where it said to click. And for our first agenda item, maybe we have an introduction. So I'm going to type in introduction and hit enter. And you'll see that that creates a brand new bullet point. Maybe after our introduction, we're going to have some sort of, how about some sort of company video, perhaps? Maybe like a good morale boosting video showing what we've done throughout the year, perhaps, showing the members of our team. Good. I'll hit enter again for another bullet point. After that company video, maybe we'll have a guest speaker. I'll hit enter one more time, and maybe that'll be our conclusion after. So you might have any sort of agenda. I'm just kind of making this one up. All right, so you can see we have a basic bulleted list, but there are actually different levels that we can apply to our bulleted list. For example, that company video, maybe this would be considered a part of the introduction. So instead of making this its own main bullet point, we could make this like a sub-bullet point on a different level. To do this, one way to do this, I'm going to click in front of my text, company video, and simply press the tab key. Hit the tab key and you'll see it indents our bullet point. It makes that bullet point a little bit smaller as well as the text. Not as important as our main bullet points, a sub-bullet. If you want to undo that or go back a level, you can actually press Shift and Tab. So remember, Tab to increase a level, Shift Tab to decrease a level in PowerPoint. And there are multiple levels. So maybe the company video is part of that introduction, and maybe for some reason the guest speaker's in the company video. I'm just making this try to work for what I'm doing. So I'm going to click in front of guest speaker, and I'll hit Tab, not once. If I hit it once, that'll make it, a sub-bullet of introduction. But if I hit it again, that bullet point will get even smaller as well as the text. So you can have different levels within a bulleted list. Remember, to decrease a bulleted list, that is Shift Tab. But we do have these options in our ribbon as well. If you go to your Home tab, right in the center of your ribbon is a paragraph group. Top center of that paragraph group, you'll see two icons that appear to be lines of text with an arrow either pointing to the left or to the right. And that will allow us to either increase or decrease our list level for these bullet points. So if I'll click in front of a bullet point, you can decrease the list level or increase it. Okay. So we just have the typical standard bullet points, just a black dot, but you might want something else. And of course, there are different kinds of bullet points that you can apply to your presentation. So if I want to apply a new bullet point to all of these existing bullet points, I'm just going to click and drag to select them all. Yep. Select all that text. Now, with all that text selected, let's go right back to our paragraph group, which was in the center of our ribbon in the Home tab. So in the paragraph group, top left-hand corner, you'll find an icon of a bulleted list. If for some reason I do not want these to be bullet points anymore, I'll just click on that bulleted list icon. You will see the bullet points disappear. If I click on the bulleted list icon again, the bullet points reappear. Just to the right of this icon, though, is a drop-down arrow you can click on to find some additional types of bullet points. And you can hover your cursor over these to preview them, to see if you like them. And if you do find a bullet point that you like, simply left-click to select it, And that will, of course, change the bullet points for all of your selected text. So we have a bulleted list now, but our PowerPoint presentation still looks very bland and very boring. Everything is all black and white, very plain. Well, PowerPoint is supposed to be a very visually engaging program. You want to capture your audience's attention and keep it. And one of the best ways to do that in PowerPoint would be to apply themes. Now, a theme in PowerPoint is going to apply some sort of design to all of the slides in your presentation, as well as a color scheme, and it might also change your font options within your presentation. But remember, when you apply a theme, it is applied to all of your slides. So themes in PowerPoint can actually be found in the Design tab above the ribbon. Once you go to that Design tab above the ribbon, there will be a group called Themes, and you will see some different themes available to you. And you are welcome to simply hover your cursor over these themes to live preview them. See what they will look like without actually applying the theme. So you will see a few themes here, but in the bottom right-hand corner of all of these different themes is a drop-down arrow you can click on for more themes. Yep, you will see additional themes appear. Once again, simply hover your cursor over these themes until you find one that you like, and once you do, simply left-click it to select it. Now, this theme might have some different effects based on which slide layouts you are using. For example, a title slide might be a bit different than, say, a title and content slide, as you can see here. Once again, we do get some design ideas. Just some ideas to kind of spruce up this slide. You can look through them. If you like any of them, go ahead and pick them. If not, design ideas, there's an X in the top right-hand corner. Click on that X to close out of it. You can always bring design ideas back up, though, in PowerPoint. It is in the Design tab, all the way on the right-hand side of your ribbon. There you go, Design Ideas. And you will see different ideas, well, depending on which slide you have selected. So that might be another thing you'd like to check out, brand new to PowerPoint 2019. So let's say you pick a theme, and maybe you like the design, but you're not a big fan of the colors, or maybe you'd like to change the font style in your presentation. Well, every theme in PowerPoint has additional variants, additional color schemes and font options we can apply to all of the slides in our presentation. Those variants are still in the Design tab. Just to the right of your themes, you will find a variants group, and you might find a few different colored variants based off of whatever theme you chose. But in the bottom right-hand corner of these variants, there is a drop-down arrow we can click on to get more options. We have options like colors with a variety of color schemes. Like most formatting options, we can simply hover our cursor until we find one that we like and left-click to select it. I'm going to go back up to variants in the ribbon, click on the bottom right-hand corner, and we also have font options. So yes, we can change the font for our whole entire presentation. Hover your cursor over these different font styles to see that change take effect in your currently selected slide. If you find a font style you like, left-click on it to select it. Okay. Also, in variants, if I click on that arrow in the bottom right-hand corner, there are additional effect options, but these typically are applied to things like shapes or smart art, ways we can put text into shapes. So if you don't see any change take place when you choose different effects, well, you just don't have any objects in this slide that are going to be, well, affected by that. We can also find some different kinds of background styles as well. So if you'd like to change that up, maybe make it a little bit lighter, but keep the same color scheme, of course, that is an option as well. So you can see that PowerPoint actually gives us a lot of options to be as creative as we want to be in terms of creating this presentation and making sure it looks exactly how we want it to. And you don't, once you pick a theme, it's not stuck. You can always switch to a different theme, change up your variants, use those design ideas if you so choose. But again, this is probably the #1 way to make your PowerPoint presentation stand out a bit more. So we've learned how we can apply themes to our PowerPoint presentation to make them more visually appealing. Another way to make our presentations more visually appealing would be to apply transitions, which I would like to talk about next, specifically the brand new morph transition that was introduced in PowerPoint 2019. So transitions, whenever you are in a slideshow, transitions are the animated effects that occur when you are moving from one slide to another slide. Your transitions are all located in a Transitions tab directly above your ribbon. And in that Transitions tab, you're going to have a group called Transition to this slide. I want to repeat that. Transition to this slide. Not from this slide, but to this slide. Meaning if I apply a transition to slide number 1, that will not be the transition between slide 1 and 2. It's going to be the transition from when we start our slideshow from nothing to slide number 1. So just a very important thing to keep in mind. So in the transition to the slide group, there are quite a few transitions, and feel free to left click on any of these transitions to check them out. And there are quite a few. If you've not used PowerPoint in a number of years, the transitions keep getting better and better. So you'll see a few transitions in front of you, but in the bottom right-hand corner of these transitions is a drop-down arrow where you can find even more, and there are plenty of them. Got some cool ones like wind, blow those slides away. You can fracture a slide. One of my personal favorites is the origami swan. Yep, fold up that slide of swan and let it fly away. So all different kinds of transitions, they are pretty cool. Now, different transitions might have different effect options, which a lot of times are directional in nature, just kind of change the way our transition works. So for example, again, let's take that origami swan. Now I've already clicked on the origami swan. It is applied to this slide. How do I know the transition is applied to this slide? Well, if you look over on the left-hand side in your slide pane, right underneath that slide number, I have a star icon, letting me know that either a transition, animation, or both have been applied to this slide. It's the same icon for transitions or animations. You can't really tell the difference between the two. But yep, notice that slide number 1 has that star, and none of my other slides do. So if you've already applied a transition to a slide and you just want to check it out, if you want to preview it, in the Transitions tab above your ribbon, all the way on the left-hand side is the Preview option. Yep, click on Preview and you will see this. So I see that origami swan flying off to the right. Now maybe I'd like that swan to fly off in the other direction. Again, these are called effect options, just changing the way transitions work. And you'll find these effect options all the way to the right of your transitions. Yep, effect options. Now, if you've chosen a transition and effect options is grayed out, that simply means there are no effect options for that specific transition. So try another one and go for those effect options. So they will change depending on what transition you have selected. So for that origami swan, I can either have it fly off to the right or to the left-hand side. So do keep an eye out for that. Additional effect options for transitions you may apply. Okay. Now, there was a brand new transition added into PowerPoint 2019. Now, it was one of the first ones, and I don't see it here. So I'm going to click on that drop-down arrow again. And here we go. Towards the very, very top of our transitions is the new one called Morph. Yep, the Morph transition allows us to morph different slides into each other, kind of creating like a seamless effect, which can be pretty cool. So I'm going to apply that Morph effect. Okay. Again, when you choose a transition, you are only applying it to the single slide you have selected. That's it. If I really like this Morph transition and I want to apply it to the rest of my slides, well, in that Transitions tab, all the way on the right-hand side of our ribbon is a timing group and Apply to All. I'll click on Apply to All, and you'll see those star icons underneath all the slide numbers all over on the left-hand side of PowerPoint. Okay, so typically we view our transitions the best in a slideshow. Remember, there's many ways to start a slideshow in PowerPoint. You have the icon in your quick access toolbar in the top left-hand corner. You have the Start Slideshow next to your Zoom bar in the bottom right-hand corner. You have the Slideshow tab. Or there is that hotkey, which was F5, or again, for some computers and laptops, function F5. So if F5 doesn't work for you, try the function key with it. All right, and that will take me to my very first slide. If I want to go to my next slide, I'll just click. Oops, I went too fast there. But you'll kind of see all these slides just, morph into each other pretty seamlessly. Gives a good general subdued effect, but it's kind of nice. So that's the morph effect going in between different slides. But there is another cool thing we can do with the morph effect. We can actually rearrange items on a slide. If you want to have some animated effects, we can absolutely do that. First, I'm going to get out of this slideshow. To do that, we hit the escape key. Okay, and I'm going to go back to slide number 1. So slide number 1, let's say we really want to put this morph effect in action and have things kind of moving around in our slides. Well, the best way to do this would be to duplicate a slide, make a copy of it, and then just rearrange the items on the slide itself. So how do we duplicate a slide? Well, we are going to talk about this more in a future video, but a couple ways to do it. If you actually just right-click on that slide number 1, you will bring up additional slide options. Halfway down that menu will be duplicate slide, and that's what I'm going to click on, duplicate slide. There's also a hotkey to duplicate slide, Control D. Will duplicate whatever slide you have selected. Okay, so now I can see that slides 1 and 2 are the exact same, and on slide 2, I'm just going to move around some of this content. Remember, if you click in a placeholder, you can move it by clicking and dragging at the edge. And I'll just put this in different directions. Move the coffee house down here. And I have a slide image that I'll just put right here in the center. Okay, just moving different things around. You can do this however you would like. Okay, so now let's see what happens when we start our slideshow and transition to slide number 2. I'll press that hotkey to start a slideshow, F5, or function F5 on my computer that I'm using right now. There's slide number 1. Yep, just the normal slide. And if I click to move to slide number 2, well, you can actually see all of those items just move to the different locations that I put them in slide number 2. So this is just another way to get some cool animated effects within your slides. Yep, I'll just continue on. You'll see we get that more subdued morph effect. But if you actually duplicate slides and move objects around, that can be even cooler. So don't forget, transitions are yet another useful tool when it comes to making that PowerPoint presentation as engaging as possible. So now that we've worked with transitions a little bit, I'd like to go back to our original presentation that we created, but did not save. So if we want to access this presentation in the future, well, of course, we're going to want to save it somewhere. And you probably want to save it under a different name. So if you just open up a blank PowerPoint presentation, it'll just be called Presentation 1 or 2 or 3, depending on how many presentations you have opened up. So there are several ways to save within PowerPoint. And let's start by going to our Backstage view. If you remember, we get to the Backstage view by clicking on the File tab in the top left-hand corner. And in that File tab, left-hand side, you'll find 2 tabs, Save and Save As. So if the file is already named as something, clicking on Save will just overwrite that file, update it. Whereas if you click on Save As, that's going to make a different copy of this file, maybe called something else. If you have not named the file yet at all, if it's not saved, if it's just Presentation 1 or something like that, the Save tab and the Save As tab will be the exact same. So, depending on either one you're in, the same thing, you're going to find on the left-hand side some different locations you can save to, like maybe a OneDrive account, that Office 365 online cloud storage. Maybe you have a SharePoint site you want to save documents to. Of course, we can always go to different locations on our PC or just click on Browse to bring up our File Explorer. I also want to point out in this Save As tab, on the right-hand side, we actually have a list of recent folders we have been working with. And just like those recent files that we found on our PowerPoint start page, for any folder that I hover my cursor over, you are going to see a pushpin icon on the right-hand side. If you click on the pushpin icon, it will pin the folder to the very top of this list where it will stay forever. So if you save all your PowerPoint presentations to the same folder, this is not a bad idea. You can always unpin that folder by clicking on the pushpin icon one more time. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and maybe browse for a location on my computer. Let's click on Browse. And I'll just go ahead and save this to my desktop. Let's click on that desktop over on the left-hand side of my File Explorer. So towards the bottom of the Save As window, we will need to type in a file name. Now, notice that my file name is actually my presentation, because that's actually the text that was in my very first title slide in that title placeholder. So PowerPoint's just going to assume that's what you want to call your presentation. If you want to call it something else, though, call it whatever you'd like. There are also different file types we can save as in PowerPoint, and these will be directly below your file name. It will say Save As Type, and PowerPoint Presentation by default, but if you click where it says PowerPoint Presentation, you are going to see a variety of additional file types you can save as. So there are quite a few of them. Now I'm just going to point out some of the probably more commonly used ones. Oops. Get to that PowerPoint slide. Doesn't work when I've got that save window open. There we go. Okay, so your default file type is going to be a PowerPoint presentation. It will have .pptx at the very end of that file name. Yep, just a modern PowerPoint file, default. You'll also see that we have a PowerPoint macro-enabled presentation. In PowerPoint, you can use things called macros, which are essentially automated processes, different steps that you do automatically. And if you have macros in a PowerPoint presentation, you want to save that as a macro-enabled presentation. If you're going to send a PowerPoint file to someone with a much older computer, before 2003, you will need to save as a PowerPoint 97 to 2003 presentation. Otherwise, you might run into compatibility issues. You could just save this as a PowerPoint show, just to view those slides. You could save as a PowerPoint template. Remember, templates are those pre-structured documents that you can use and reuse again. And you might create some sort of PowerPoint presentation that you want to reuse for other presentations in the future. For that, I would recommend the template. And then we can also save our PowerPoint presentation as a PDF, which is going to be a read-only document, when we want people to see the slides in our presentation but not necessarily make any changes to them. Okay. Now we've covered some of those different file types we can save as. I will finish saving this document, as I did cancel out of that window just so I could switch to my other screen. So again, I'll save, so I'll click on Browse, Browse for location. I will save to the desktop. Of course, you can save your file wherever you'd like. I will keep my presentation as my file name. You can change yours to whatever you want. And for the Save As type, I'll choose the standard PowerPoint presentation. And when you're ready, click on Save in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay. We'll take just a moment. But yes, now our document is actually saved. So we can close out of it without fear of losing all of this hard work. But if we do make any additional changes to our document, we can simply overwrite the previous document by just doing a quick save. To do this, in the top left-hand corner in your quick access toolbar, you have the save feature with that floppy disk icon. There is also a hotkey that will allow you to save your presentation as well, and that is Control-S. Control-S will automatically save your document. If you haven't saved your document yet and you press Control-S, that will prompt you to, well, save your document and type in a name for it. Very, very important feature within PowerPoint. Always save your work so you don't lose it. As important as it is to save our document, sometimes we might forget. Well, lucky for us, PowerPoint does have autosave options. So, autosave options. We need to go to our options for this. If you remember how to get to our options in PowerPoint, well, we need to get to our Backstage view. We'll click on that File tab in the top left-hand corner, and on the left-hand side, at the very bottom of all those tabs, we can find Options. So let's click on that, bring up that PowerPoint Options window, which has its own set of tabs over on the left-hand side, and we're going to go to the Save tab. So let's check out some of these options we have in, well, the Save tab. Now, if this file is stored on OneDrive or SharePoint, the first checkbox in this tab will allow us to just auto-save the file, to always keep saving the file for any changes that we make. If you don't want autosave to occur, if you simply want to work on your file and save as you wish, you can uncheck that box. But again, only for files that are on OneDrive or SharePoint. And you will probably know because it should say up at the top if it is. Like my presentation is actually saved to OneDrive, as you can see here. Okay, leave that option unchecked. You can choose the default file format to save as. So you can choose from some of those different file types that I talked about in the last video. I do recommend keeping that as PowerPoint presentation. And then our next bullet point, the very important one, save auto recover information every however many minutes you would like. That is going to be 10 by default, but you can increase or decrease that time to have your file save more or less frequently. Okay, underneath that we have another checkbox, keep the last auto-recovered version if I close without saving. Very useful checkbox. I like to leave a check mark in there, just to be on the safe side. And then where do we find these files? Well, you will have an auto-recover file location, and this will tell you where you're going to get those files. Okay. So let's say that we made a mistake and we forgot to save a file and we want to recover the file. Well, let me show you how to do it. We're going to go back to the Backstage view, click on the File tab in the top left-hand corner, and we're going to stick in this Info tab, which is where we should start in the Backstage view. In this Info tab, towards the bottom of these options in the center, you will find Version History and the option to Manage Presentation. And this is a location where we can recover unsaved presentations. Very important. If I bring that up, I can see I do have an unsaved presentation, so I can always bring that back up and save it if it is something I would like to keep. So even if we make a mistake and forget to save something, that's okay. We do have the auto save features. Now, if this file is stored in OneDrive or in SharePoint, well, OneDrive and SharePoint are apps that allow us to share files with other people. So you can have multiple people working on the same file, even at the same time if you would like. So as you have multiple people working on this file, maybe there's one person that does a very good job editing the file and somebody else that's just making mistakes. Well, lucky for us, when we have a file saved to OneDrive or SharePoint, PowerPoint will start to create additional version histories, different versions of the file made by different people at different times. So you will find an extra icon in the top right-hand corner of PowerPoint, only if it is, again, saved to OneDrive or SharePoint. And it's going to be a clock icon with a circular arrow going around it. This is your version history option. So I do have this file saved to OneDrive. I do have my version history. And right now I can just see, one other version, as this is a relatively new file. I haven't done much editing since I changed things around. I'm sorry, that makes sense. I haven't done much editing since I last saved it. Okay. But if you have other people who work on this file, you will start to see their versions appear as well. It will tell you who saved the file and when the file was saved. Now, with whatever file you hover your cursor over, as long as it's not the most recent one, there's going to be a drop-down arrow you can click on to actually restore that version as the main version. So if this current version is no good and I've got a previous one that I'd like to use, in version history I will have an option to restore it. And that's a great way to maintain a level of control over your documents when they are being shared with other people. Now that we've learned about our autosave options, let's continue on and talk about file properties. So file properties are just different pieces of information, well, about your file. It could be related to, in PowerPoint, the number of slides you have, maybe your file size, when the file was created or modified. But there are other properties that we can actually insert on our own, things like categories and tags that could be useful to us to help organize our documents a bit better, specify certain things, or maybe even make these documents easier to find. So in order to get to our file properties, we're going to want to go to our Backstage view. Of course, if you remember, to get there, we click on the File tab in the top left-hand corner of PowerPoint. Once you get to that Backstage view, let's make sure we're in the Info tab. It should be the first tab by default. And in the Info tab, you will find Properties over on the right-hand side. Yep. A few general properties: our file size, number of slides, title of our presentation, when the file was last modified, created, who created the file. But we can add in additional properties. Next to where it says tags and categories, you'll see we have options to add a tag, add a category to categorize this in some way, shape, or form. But there are even more properties than what we see here. Underneath all these properties at the very bottom is an option to show all properties. When you click on Show All Properties, yes, this will give you even more properties. Now I can see additional properties like comments. I can see the template that we're using in this PowerPoint presentation. Might be useful if you want to use it somewhere else and you're not sure what it was. You can also add in things like a status, a subject, or maybe even put in your company name. So yeah, just a lot of information to help you understand what this document's about, what's in the document, who the document's for, things like that. But one of these properties can help us find this file a bit easier in the future, and that would be the tag property. So when you see tags here and the option to add a tag, well, I'm going to click where it says add a tag, and I'm going to choose some sort of word to tag this file with. Now, I recommend you don't choose a generic word that's going to show up in many, many files, because when you go searching for that, you might get more results than you intended. Tell you what, I think I'm going to tag this file with the template I was using, which was Berlin. So for the tag, I'll type in Berlin. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and close out of my document. Autosave should be on, so it should save automatically. Okay, now in order to do a successful search for this tag, you will need to be in the folder that contains that PowerPoint file. But yeah, you might have a folder with many PowerPoint files in it, and you're looking for files with a specific tag. So in my File Explorer, in this folder where I have all these PowerPoint files, top right-hand corner I have a search bar. I'm going to click in that search bar and type in the word Berlin, the tag that I created, and you'll see that my presentation does appear. Even though Berlin is nowhere near in the file